Good afternoon, Seawolves. Welcome back to another week of the Stony Brook Media Group. My name is Richard Bolden Jr.
And I'm Sky Crabtree. We have many interesting stories to cover today.
Scientists are now saying extreme heat and climate change contributed to this summer's intense storms, wildfires, floods, and droughts. The deadliest wildfire in the U.S. scorched Lahaina torrential rain leads to the devastating floods in Libya, and extreme heat broke temperatures records in Europe. NOAA reports June through August as the world's hottest 3-month period in history, and July was 1.1 degrees Celsius hotter than last century's average.
New York's Climate Week is an annual summit bringing together global leaders and decision makers, all while tackling climate change issues. The event partners with the United Nations General Assembly and is held at the United Nations headquarters in the city of New York. This is the 15th annual Climate Week, and the theme is We Can, We Will. 50,000 protesters took over Wall Street on Sunday to call for the Biden administration to stop approving more fossil fuel extraction, making it the biggest climate protest in the U.S. in 5 years.
In celebration for the changing of the seasons, the Stony Brook Pagan Student Society hosted their first fall equinox craft market in the Sac Plaza. Focusing on pagan traditions, some activities included making a spell jar and writing fall manifestations.
Clubs such as the Cat Network, Crochet Club, and SBU Swifties took part in making fun crafts and selling clothes, bracelets, and other accessories. The event also hosted performances by the Stony Brook Belly Dancers and the Ballroom Dance Team.
Now to our international correspondent, Zoe Busowitz, for more updates. Zoe?
Thank you, Richard. 5 Americans returned to the United States on Tuesday after being in an Iranian prison for nearly a decade. The U.S. released $6 billion of frozen Iranian oil funds, and 5 Iranians facing charges for nonviolent crimes now walk free. The Americans, Siamak Namazi, was in prison for 8 years, and Imad Shargi and Murad Tabaz were both arrested in 2018. Iran wrongfully accused the 3 of espionage and locked them up in Evin prison located in Tehran. The identity of the last 2 prisoners remain unknown. Concerns have been raised about the regime having access to $6 billion worth of unfrozen Iranian asset money held in a bank account in Qatar. The 78th United Nations General Assembly opened in New York this Tuesday and will continue into next week. This year's theme is Rebuilding Trust and Reigniting Global Solidarity. President Biden reiterated strong support for Ukraine and called for the expansion of the United Nations Security Council, incorporating new members. Ukrainian President Zelensky addressed the General Assembly, citing Russia's veto power as dangerous and misused. He also criticized the UN for not doing enough about the war in Ukraine, saying they, quote, compromise with killers rather than protect lives. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres responded by saying the United Nations' full commitment to respecting the sovereignty of Ukraine and condemned Russia for violating both United Nations Charter and international law. Ukraine is facing new challenges in its war with Russia as one of its biggest allies, Poland, has just withdrawn military support. Tensions between Ukraine and Poland come after grain exports and the destabilization of Polish markets. Biden also made an address to China, and an Israeli diplomat was removed after interrupting the Iranian president's speech with a banner of Masa Amini. Just this morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says that Israel is, quote, at the cusp of a historic agreement with Saudi Arabia. In some good news, Van Gogh's 1884 Parsonage Garden at Nuenen in Spring was returned earlier this month. The painting was initially stolen from Singer-Laren Museum while it was on display at a temporary exhibit. The painting was returned by a tipster and was left on the doorstep of Dutch art crimes detective Arthur Brand. The painting was encased in bubble wrap and tucked into an IKEA bag. That's all for this week. Back to you, Richard and Sky.
Thanks, Zoe. And now let's flip to the world's entertainment to see what's trending with our reporters Audrey and Allison.
Thanks, guys. Journalist Barbie here, and welcome to the entertainment segment of our news show, where we talk about current topics in the entertainment industry.
Now, one of the most talked about films this year is Barbie. Directed by Greta Gerwig, the film is currently nearing the top 10 list for highest grossing films in the US.
Barbie has earned over $1.4 billion at the box office, and it has even become Warner Bros. Discovery's highest grossing film, beating Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
This feel-good movie has been inspirational to so many people all over the world, and it's amazing to see the goals it's achieving. The film's Blu-ray and DVD will be available for pre-order ahead of its December release.
Now, if you're unsure what to do this Saturday, then you should check out the Global Citizen Festival. The festival works towards ending extreme poverty by calling action to the world and corporate leaders. Fans can earn a free ticket by completing different actions on the website, by signing petitions, to sharing information to your social media.
Some of the many performers include the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Jungkook of BTS, Anita, Conan Gray, and Stray Kids. If you don't have tickets, then don't worry, because there will be a live stream of the event on the GC app and YouTube. Personally, I'm most excited to see Jungkook perform, so what about you, Barbie?
Barbie, I'm so excited to see everything going on, and honestly, I've been waiting 7 days a week to see him. Now that's all from our entertainment segment. We have a disco party to get back to. Back to you at the desk.
Now, our reporter Sydney Riddle will tell us about an important nonprofit students can get involved in.
2022, the region of sub-Saharan Africa had close to 98 million children and youth out of school. Maggie Grout has made it her mission to change that with her nonprofit Thinking Huts. Thinking Huts is using large-scale 3D printing to build schools in these communities and all over the region in order to fill the gap of education.
I got the idea for the 3D printed schools around that age range of 15. My dad was in the technology space, so growing up, I was sort of immersed in that world, so I understood how those applications were being placed more so in venture capital, but not so much in philanthropy. And I was really interested in how we could bring innovation in a thoughtful way to address really challenging problems that exist everywhere in the world.
Maggie was born in a rural village in China before she was adopted by her parents and grew up in the U.S. Because of this, she never took for granted the opportunity for education, especially as a woman.
And I think this influences me in hoping that it will change other people's lives, and especially for young girls, because I think in more developing communities like here, I think maybe people don't realize there's such a freedom in being able to choose who you want to marry, and that's not often the case for a lot of girls in other parts of the world. So that's, I think, the main goal here, for them to have those different choices in life.
Maggie is now 24, and this nonprofit is just getting started.
Right now, we're trying to fill a gap of about 22,000 schools in Madagascar, which is quite a big goal, but we're doing the best we can. And I think maybe longer term, we would love to scale to other countries. We've had requests from over 15 countries at this point, but it really comes down to how much philanthropic support we can get. But a lot of people tend to not want to support international causes because they maybe can't relate so much to the issues that they tend to experience over there.
Maggie has many goals for this organization, but the biggest one right now is filling the gap of education in these communities.
I have noticed other organizations attempt homes, but in my personal opinion, I think that may not be the best use of the resources, just because I think education is so foundational. They need to understand and have those skills to then be able to get a job to support their livelihood, to afford the home. So with a house, you could build it, but if you are trying to serve communities that are lower income, they may not be able to then afford to live in the house itself.
Maggie is always looking for help with her mission, especially from passionate college students.
The easiest way would be to go visit our website, which is thinkinghuts.org. For people who are interested in getting involved, the easiest way would probably be through volunteering or internships. We do have quite a lean team, just given the nature of being a nonprofit, but we are really welcoming of people's skill sets and time, because I think that is honestly what is the driving force of being able to do this type of work.
I'm Sydney Riddle, Stony Brook Media Group.
And now, hopefully some answers to the speculations surrounding a possible government shutdown on September 30th, and a look at the second Republican primary debate with our politics reporter, Daniela Rodriguez.
Thanks, guys. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has vowed to not give up on passing a temporary spending bill as he tries to avoid a government shutdown on September 30th. And with many hard conversations between members of his own party and Democrats, McCarthy has had a difficult time working on compromises to avoid the shutdown. With spending bills proposed by both sides, all are facing opposition, especially from the House Freedom Caucus. Speaker McCarthy would need nearly every Republican to bypass Democratic opposition of the proposed conservative bills.
It's a good thing I love a challenge, because every day is going to be a challenge. We've got a long week. We're not September 30th yet, but the one thing I'll tell everybody, I've never seen anybody win a shutdown. If you're not willing to pass appropriation bills, and you're not willing to pass a continuing resolution to allow you to pass the rest of appropriation bills, and you don't want an omnibus, I don't quite know what you want. So, we just have to get together, figure it out, and move forward.
While some Republicans are fighting amongst themselves, others are trying to work with Democrats to get something passed. As of right now, it's unclear what progress can be made by next weekend. And the second Republican presidential primary debate is just 5 days away, and 6 candidates have secured their spot on stage. On Wednesday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, former Vice President Mike Pence, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, and former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie will go head-to-head in Simi Valley, California. The debate starts at 9 p.m. and will be hosted by Fox Business and Univision. I will bring you the latest information on Hunter Biden's not guilty plea, President Joe Biden's impeachment inquiry, and the debate all next week. Now back to you at the desk.
And now for some exciting sports coverage with Mike Anderson. Mike?
Thank you, guys. Let's take a look at what's going on in Boulder, Colorado right now. Since becoming head coach for the University of Colorado's football team, Deion Sanders has totally revamped the program. The Buffaloes went just 1-11 last year and have endured back-to-back losing seasons. However, after rebuilding Jackson State's football program over the previous 3 years, Sanders took his talents to Colorado this offseason and has made an instant impact. The Buffaloes are currently 3-0 on the year and are averaging 41.3 points per game on offense. Their performance has earned them the number 19 spot in both of the major top 25 polls. Part of Sanders' rebuilding plan was to bring his top players from Jackson State with him. One of those players is his son Shador, who is the team's starting quarterback. However, there's hardly any politics at play there, as Shador Sanders is currently second in the nation in passing yards with 1,251. Colorado's next test will be tomorrow at number 10 Oregon, who are currently 21-point favorites over the Buffaloes. Now let's take it to the hardwood, where things are starting to heat up for women's basketball. The WNBA playoffs are currently a week in and into the semifinals round already. A familiar face for New Yorkers is still kicking, as the New York Liberty just swept the Washington Mystics 2-0 to advance to the WNBA semis. As the number 2 seed in the playoffs, the Liberty own home court advantage over their semifinal opponents, the Connecticut Sun. It will be a high-scoring, best-of-3 series between the two, as both teams boast a top 4 scoring offense. The series will tip off this Sunday at 1 p.m. at the Barclays Center. After winning the U.S. Open last week, Coco Gauff has qualified for the Women's Tennis Association Finals, the WTA announced earlier today. For the second straight year, Gauff has qualified for both singles and doubles. Her doubles partner will be fellow American Jessica Pegula, making this the second time the two have appeared in tandem. After her first career Grand Slam title last week at the Open, Gauff reached the number 3 ranking amongst women's tennis players around the globe. Alongside Pegula, the duo come into the finals ranked as the WTA's number 1 ranked team, making them the first Americans to ever reach the global top ranking. The WTA finals will take place in Cancun, Mexico later this fall, opening on October 29th and wrapping up on November 5th. That's all I have for you today. Back to you, Richard and Sky.
Thank you, Mike.
A tragic story brings us to our local Long Island this week. A bus carrying the Farmingdale High School marching band overturned yesterday afternoon, killing 2 and critically injuring 5.
Officials say 40 students and 4 adults on board were headed to a band camp event in Pennsylvania. They also say the bus drove off the road, falling 50 feet into an embankment on I-84 in Orange County.
Officials have confirmed the 2 adults killed in the crash as 43-year-old Gina Pelletieri and 77-year-old Beatrice Ferrari. Pelletieri was the high school's band director, and Ferrari, a retired teacher, taught at the school for over 26 years.
Several of the students on board were taken into an area hospital. As of this morning, 5 are reported to be in critical condition. The investigation is ongoing.
Our hearts are with the Farmingdale community, and we will bring you more information next week as we learn more.
That's it for this week's episode of Stony Brook Media News. I'm Richard Bolden Jr.
And I'm Sky Crabtree. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.